Morning, YouTube friends. It's good to see you again. It's been about a week and I've been on a trip and I'm going to share that later. But the first thing I want to talk about this morning is this tapestry weave that I was working on and that I finished. Okay, here it is. And as you'll notice, it's not great. It's got a big hump on this side and a little bit of a hump on this side where I used some larger, thicker yarn. And when it was under tension and it was pulled, those hefty yarns were under a bit more control, but as soon as I took it off tension, they kind of spread out. These warp yarns, when they weren't under tension, the bulkiness of this yarn here and this yarn here just kind of spread them out, especially this one. I really don't like that. So I thought, well, maybe somebody would buy it anyway. But you know, I don't like that attitude. I really want to make it better, and I want to learn from my mistakes because I've been watching, oh dear, what's her name? Spruce and Linen. I forget the girl's name on that YouTube channel, and she does beautiful tapestry weaving. And she said she was using smaller strips of roving and doing the sumac stitch. And she was careful to say that you should only wrap it around every other warp string, okay? But this wasn't roving. This was just a kind of a heavy, it's a bulky yarn, but not as bulky as roving. So I thought, oh, it's okay. I don't have to use every other warp yarn, and I should have. So I can't go in and just strip out every other row this way. That won't improve the situation at all. I would have to go in and unweave all of this and then weave it again using every other warp string, but it needs to be under tension in order to weave it. So I would have to, I wouldn't use this obviously, I would have to pull this and get some kind of a thin bar across the bottom, pull it, and get it under some tension so I could weave it again. And I may actually try that only as an experiment to see if I can do it. And that brings me to another weaving topic, which is 2 books that I have. Now, I was given these books by a dear friend who has since died, and she got them from a family member who was a weaver. She was not a weaver herself. And she was just, I think, getting rid of stuff, and she knew that I was a weaver and had been for a while and wanted me to have these. And I was like, oh, okay, but they're big books, and, man, reading through a big book takes forever. So I kind of put them away. I looked at them a little bit. But when I started doing tapestry weaving, I pulled them back out. Now, here is the first one. It's called Rigid Heddle Weaving by Karen Swanson. And here's Karen Swanson on the back. Now, this is a somewhat old book. You see, and I think it's not hard to find, but it is worth a little bit. First printing 1975. But the interesting thing about what she does is she does this kind of weaving. She does weaving where she attaches the top of the weave to another point, and she wraps the bottom of the weave around her waist. It's amazing. And the whole book really pretty much is about that, using that method to create your tension. You don't create it on a table loom or a loom on a stand. You actually use your body as part of the frame. But she does use rigid heddles in this, so that's why it's called rigid heddle weaving. And a lot of the stitches that the girl at Spruce and Linen was talking about, Karen Swanson does in this book. It has great diagrams, mostly black and white pictures, but the diagrams are nice and big and fun to study. She's very careful in her explanations. However, the style that she's going for, this is so 70s, guys. This was my youth. Are weaves that look like, now that's kind of the worst, but they just look like somebody put them through a shredder and then a washer and a dryer. I don't know. I don't get into, to me that's kind of ugly, but that's a matter of preference. However, I have appreciated this book. I'm going to continue to look through it and review these stitches. However, it strikes me that if I could, okay, don't laugh, if I could, put a nice strong string on this and attach it to something, who knows what, doorknob, I don't know, and then get some kind of like a knitting needle and thread it through somewhere here on the bottom where it won't do any damage, and make sure I go in and out, I don't know, somehow attach it to the weave at the bottom, and then put it around my waist with a strap. I might be able to create the tension that I want and take this. And the other thing I could do when I take this out, I could take out that silver ribbon yarn. You can see it here on the back. I didn't like how it behaved in there. It didn't do what I wanted. I was surprised that this one did so badly. Maybe I beat it too hard. It behaved fine in my first weave. I don't know why it gives a bulge in this one when it didn't before. The rest of the weave I'm pretty pleased with. It's just those two things. So I'm gonna try that. I can't do it today. I can't do it tomorrow. I can maybe do it Friday. This week is Holy Week, and so our church is doing a good bit of stuff, and I just don't have time, sorry to say, but I can probably do it next week. So I want to give you a heads up of what's coming, but I want to show you this other book. Okay, this is the other book that my friend gave me, and I didn't really look at it because I was a new weaver, and as a new weaver, it was a mystery to me. And the name is hilarious. The name is Keep Me Warm One Night. Okay, and it's by a husband and wife pair, Burnham and Burnham. This is a Canadian book. I'm kind of going on my memory, which is a scary thing to do, but this one of the couple, maybe it was the husband, was associated with a museum in Canada. It might be the Royal Ontario Museum, and they decided over time to do kind of an inventory of all the different types of overshot coverlet weaving. Okay, and overshot is that really thick, dense, patterned, you know what a coverlet is. A coverlet is just something that goes on a bed. But just so many, and so they took photographs of all the patterns, and they're all in here. Every single Canadian overshot coverlet pattern historically. And they went to great lengths to get photographs of these coverlets, the originals, and then evaluate the patterns. There's hundreds of them in here. They're really beautiful. I don't know that I'll ever do this kind of weaving. This is almost more of a history book, or it's a history and weaving book. It's not the kind of book that you would get and go, oh, I'm going to use this to weave with. They also do have diagrams. Anyway, interesting. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but and they have wonderful photographs too of that's a very simple, looks like a simple muslin, but of kind of antique dresses and all that to say, and they have a big section in the beginning of antique, all kinds of antique spinning and weaving. I think when I first got it, that was the thing that I was interested in the most, was the photographs of the antique wheels. There's quite a lot of those in here. Okay. All that to say, apparently this is a very desirable book. I don't know if it was only printed once, hard to find. When I looked up the values of it online, it was kind of all over the place. This one does not have a dust jacket. I think that was a big deal, 30 years ago, not so much now. So if you happen to be watching this and you happen to know anybody who's interested in that book, tell them to contact me, because I would really like it to go, I'd really like it to go back to Canada. I'd like it to go to someone who's going to appreciate that Canadian overshot coverlet history. And then I probably will also sell the Rigid Heddle weaving book once I am done with, I've squeezed all of the value out of it that I can. All right. What else have I been doing? I made a double batch this time of shampoo bars. And I painted a little bit, but most of all in the last week, I drove to Chattanooga and back. Now that's an 11-hour drive for me. It's really a very long drive. And I went there to see my son and his wife and my grandbaby. And it was a very fun, pretty fast visit, but very, very fun and a delight. Can you hear the noise in the background? I'll give you one guess what that racket is out there. That's the dog and the cat doing their morning play. And so after this, I'm going to share a little bit of video of that. And that'll be my video for this week. That's about all I'm getting done. All right. Thanks so much for dropping in. And next time I'll show you what happened with that tapestry weave. Thanks. Okay, so far so good on this repair to my tapestry weave. I'm going to use this twine. This is what I use to lash on my loom, and it's pretty sturdy stuff. It has to be. It's used to being put under tension. So I've tied a nice hefty knot here. This is like a improved square knot where, and instead of just looping it under once, you do twice, and then you do that again. And I can slip it off of this end or that end. I'm going to loop it through here, I think. This drawer stays stuck pretty well. So I think I'll put it through there. Now, on the bottom, I've taken a size, what is it, size 8? Maybe I should use something smaller, but I didn't. This was the one that was hanging around. And I've gone up a little bit into my weave. Down here, the warp threads are tied together in bundles of 3, so it's harder to get between them. So I came up some, which I think will put less pressure on those knots too. And I've tried to separate my tapestry weave so I can find the different warp strings. As you can see in there, there's another one. So I hope that'll be fine. And now that I've done that, I am going to, before I put it under tension, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to remove all this first. I'm going to do this part first, the most problematic part first, and see how that goes. And then I'll work on this secondary, which I just hate to take out. I just love that stuff, but I'll be putting it back in. All right, so that's it. So, and then I'll put more of this around the bottom and put it around my back. That may seem silly. I don't want to try to figure out a way to put it back on my loom, my Heddle loom. And because I can slip the ends off here, I'm not going to be strapped to this until I finish it. I can take it off in the middle if I need to. Okay. Let's hope and pray this works. I'm nearly done taking out the silver. I wanted to do that first so to free up this blue, variegated blue, and make sure that it came out easily. And as I'm working it, I'm like, maybe part of the problem wasn't the silver that I didn't like, it was how I did it. And so I'm not just snipping it out in little pieces, I'm actually removing it. And I've got to make this point. Crochet hooks are some of the most useful tools. Even if you don't crochet, if you knit, you really need a crochet hook. And even with weaving, there are times when a crochet hook is just exactly what you need to pull yarn. Well, there's the end. So I'm getting really close to the end. Now, the thing I did with the silver, leave that back there, is I put it through the blue, and then I also did a line of silver, which you can't see unless you pull it back. Again, another detrimental effect of the bulkiness of this variegated blue. But I've got a line of that up there. I don't want to disturb that. I don't think it's connected to the silver here. So we're going to finish pulling this out, but I'm going to leave this silver, I'm going to leave it attached if I can. And although it may just come right on out of there, I don't know. And Tricky has now come in. Tricky and Bobo, both Bobo is hacking. Hack, Bobo. What's with you guys? You want to go outside? Probably. We've discovered that if we go away for the whole day, like if I'm out of town and Adam goes to work, they're perfectly fine in the house all day. They don't do any messes or anything. They don't really have to go outside. But if you're home, they act like they're dying 1,000 deaths if you don't take them out. Okay, I've got this one. I'm not going to bother with that. That's where it's knotted and attached, so I'm going to leave that. Now I've got to try to find, I think I'll take out the top end of this first. I'm going to wait as long as possible to put this under tension. The other thing that's really weird, not really sure, this must be part of the problem, is that I don't know how I left such big gaps here. That doesn't make any sense. If I were a more knowledgeable tapestry weaver, I'm sure somebody out there is going, "That's what's wrong, you idiot." But that's okay. All right, so I'm going to try to find my end in here somewhere, and then, oh boy, don't you wonder where it is? It could be in the middle. There's an end. There's an end. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to go investigate that end. All right, I'll get back to you. Oh. All right. This thing may be a tangled mess by the time I'm done. This is a public rest area along an interstate in North Carolina. The noise you hear in the background is the interstate traffic, but isn't it a beautiful place? I'm on my way to Chattanooga, but I thought I'd stop here at the Natahala Gorge, Natahala River in western North Carolina and give you a little view of the river. There's a little 2-lane highway here that everybody flies along. The Natahala River and the Ocoee River are two rivers that people love to take rafts down and tubes, well, maybe not inner tubes, but small rafts and big rafts like the one we just saw. I did that when I was a young person. Isn't it beautiful? We are definitely in the mountains. Can you see the sparkle of the rock up there? And there's the trickle of a little stream coming down. Well, I could stand here for hours, but I have to get on the road. I have a grandbaby to go see. My son and daughter-in-law are such wonderful cooks, and this was some teriyaki chicken that we enjoyed while we were there on their really nice grill outside. This is a teriyaki sauce that Philip makes himself. He uses all the different sauces, Asian sauces, at the grocery store and puts them all together and cooks them down and refrigerates it. And boy, this was a wonderful meal. We had it over rice with water chestnuts, little green onions, and I forget what else. It was absolutely wonderful. I'm here at my son and daughter-in-law's house visiting, and I thought I would show you what they recently did to their kitchen. They needed more work surfaces and some good shelving, and they built all this themselves. Let me start with the shelving. I just noticed this morning. All their spices, they love to cook, and they are very good cooks. And they use a lot of spices and stuff like that. So they didn't want to be digging in their cupboards. So lovely long shelf, only probably maybe 3 inches, 3.5 inches deep. So really perfect. They've got a designated spot for their KitchenAid. So they put hooks here for their mixer attachments. They've got deeper shelves along the top. Plenty of headspace up there for tall items. My daughter-in-law said the one thing she really wants are designated slots, wooden slots for these items. but otherwise it's just really perfect. Very simple. Very simple. They love to do projects too, so that really helps. Now let me show you the bottom. They built this as well, and everything is open. You can see where we have this in common. We love this open plan thing. They love to have baking surfaces here for all kinds of purposes, but they have all of these different containers full of different kinds of flours and sugars. And they've got love cast iron, lots of cast iron and other pots and appliances at the bottom. Those are two waffle irons that I'm excited to investigate. But I wanted to show you this work surface. They built it themselves. This was originally a countertop or desk, and then they added to the length. And then they mounted it on these posts, and they installed electricity here. And these two outlets and the two on that end are designated just for appliances, so they don't plug, you know, a refrigerator or a coffee pot or something like that into it. They keep it for their Instapot or a popcorn maker or a waffle. This is a really nice height. It comes right at my hip. So this is a good, really good surface for working with dough or rolling something out, but it's adjustable. So if you look down here at the floor, you can see that it's really quite adjustable. They have a good 6 or 8 inches in there that they could shorten it if they need to. They're both rather tall. So isn't that really a great addition? Now this is a rental home for them. So at some point when they decide to buy their own home, they can remove all of this and just patch up these little holes, repaint. This was the corner where the kitchen table would normally be. So there was nothing there, and then they can take it and put it into whatever corner of their new kitchen that they want. I really think it looks great, and I'm real proud of them. If you've never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, you really should go. What a treat this was the last night I was in Chattanooga. This is in downtown Chattanooga. Beautiful restaurant. And it has a massive cold bar. It's not just a salad bar. It has so many other things, different types of salads, all kinds of sauces and toppings. You could really make a fabulous meal out of just that bar. And there's also a hot bar to go with it that had beef stroganoff and rice and other things. Look at those olives and a huge wedge of Parmesan cheese that you could just dig out of. The seating area was really lovely. It's brand new, and the staff are wonderful, and they bring carved meat to your table. After dinner, because we were so full of top sirloin and other things, we went for a nice walk on the overlook of the Tennessee River, way up at the museum. It's a very high spot. This is such a pretty place. It was extremely cold and very windy, and we were not dressed for this occasion at all. And look at this interesting wiggly walkway that goes down from the way up high where the museum is all the way down to underneath the road. And way down there, I tried to zoom in on him, was a guy playing a guitar, and it was freezing out there. Can you see his hand moving just barely? I was amazed at that. I'm now at the Ocoee River. This is way up to the top. The dam is really churning over. There's lots of warning signs. This is really only for boat unloading. On the other side, I don't know if you can see the wooden structure over there. That's for diverting the water. I do believe it's snowing just a little bit. It's really cold, about 35 degrees this morning.